Something's wrong with my camera. Let's see if I can fix that. God damn. Well, welcome to another episode of the Great Work Launchpad. I don't know why this isn't working. I don't think I was close to it. There we go. All right. My name is Kris Nelson. My site is evolveconsciousness.org. And today is Wednesday, August 6th, 2025, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And today's Great Work Launchpad will be about the value of the individual and poisoned worldviews. So I'm going to put Video Ninja link into the chat for anyone who wants to join. I'll just do a little intro. The Great Work Launchpad is to help launch people into the great work, as the image represents here. It's a rocket ship trying to get a fire lit and ignited and fuel you so that you're fueled and you're going up and doing that work. You're launching the great work up with your actions. So every week we're talking about a topic related to trying to get people to engage in that great work. And a large part of that is the shadow work, this ongoing series within the Great Work Launchpad of recognizing aspects within yourself that could be a limitation that is holding you back. So different ways that you could be holding yourself back because you have this aspect of self-knowledge that isn't had, or aspects of this work upon yourself that hasn't been done. So we're bringing that to light, so it's no longer in the darkness of your awareness, bringing it to light so you can become aware of it, and then you can work on it. A lot of this stuff is based on what Mark Passio has talked about, and of course we add our own additional inputs and insights. And for anyone who wants to come on, well, there's the link at the beginning of the episode, and you can come on and have your say, use your word and apply your knowledge, try to get warmed up into the great work, and so that you don't have to maybe do everything all on your own. You can start in step-by-step manner, and here's a platform, and you can jump in and talk about stuff that you have on your mind relating to the topic, or maybe you can suggest a topic in the future and we can talk about that, or you can do some homework and write an article, and you can come read the article on live on the show. And maybe that would be interesting. I think that would be something to maybe start doing. I could give people assignments on the next topic, and practice what you want to talk about, or think about it and make a point form note of ideas relating to it. All right. Hey, Brandon. Welcome aboard.
Howdy. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here, as always. So today's episode is the value of the individual and the subsequent poisoned worldviews where people can have about themselves, so a poisoned self-view, or about others related to individuals, individuality in general, not necessarily themselves, the value of themselves as an individual. And so when we're talking about value, most people understand what value is. It's something that you put importance in. And if you put an importance in it, then oftentimes it's something that you can have a desire for, that you can be motivated towards that thing that you value, and maybe try to amplify its presence of that thing that you value, which could be termed getting more of it, or preserving it to make sure it doesn't go away. So in types, there's like different types of values that people can have towards things, and you can ask, people can ask themselves or ask other people's, what do you value? What do you value the most? What are, for example, top 3 things that you value the most? And as Mark Passio did in his podcast, you ask people this, and pretty much 100% of the time, no one's going to say truth. People will say like they value their family, their friends, their freedom. Freedom is
Money.
getting close to it, but they're mostly thinking of their individual freedom. They're thinking of their selfish freedom related to their survival and their security and their comfort in their lives. So it's the freedom they have to do what they want to do, not true freedom, which would be more akin to valuing truth. So when they say freedom, they don't mean true freedom. It's just freedom for them. My freedom, my truth, my needs, my survival, everything that relates to them. And as we're talking about value and the value of the individual, so another question people can ask is, how valuable am I? How valuable are you? How valuable is someone else? Are the people you care about more valuable than other people? So that's an important question that people can ask is, objectively, other people aren't more valuable. We all have equal rights. But subjectively, those you are most close to, you will value more in your life. And if it came to a decision on some, obnoxious moral dilemma, who are you going to save? Well, you're going to save the person you know, the person you're familiar with, the person you have a connection with, because you value them more. And that's just the way it goes. That's psychology. That's just the way it goes. You're not going to save a stranger over someone you know. And then there's also the aspect of, is a person who doesn't do immoral things more valuable than a person who does immoral things? That's an interesting one, since we all have equal rights, but when someone's violating their rights, the rights of others, then they have tacitly accepted to, like, I don't want to say give up their rights, but they've denied themselves the right to be free from harm because they've initiated harm, that they've relinquished that reciprocity that is part of don't harm others, they won't harm you. So if you're harming others, then that reciprocity is nullified, and they do that by their own actions. They judge, offend, and insult themselves in that way by their own actions. So I wanted to start with that. I'll pass it to you, Brandon, if you have anything to say about that.
Would you say the word you was looking for was forfeited?
Yeah,
Would
you
you
could
say, oh
forfeit,
yeah, yeah, because you still have those rights, but like you said, like if anyone goes out and does violence, then you are putting yourself in a position for someone else to use self-defense on, held against you. So you are actually forfeiting your means to stay protected because you did something held that was morally wrong. Um, I just wanted to define what the word individual was. Because I think it kind of pertains to all of what you're saying and what it encompasses, because a lot of people may view that word as something that's negative, but the individual is one who is not divided, one who is indivisible, inseparable, so when we started off, of course, we talked about, the acceptance of truth and all of that stuff and doing, how the shadow work. so that one can, start to understand these concepts and start to do healthy great work. But I think it's important to understand that at the end of the day, we're all individuals, and unity within the self is what makes us up. And that is one of the most important things. And I just wanted to, get that point, across that individual is the most important thing in any society outside of truth, of course, morality and doing the right thing. And I just want to make that clear. I've talked about that, so many times, as much as many other people have. Kris, have you talked about it? But yeah, you know, yeah, I just wanted to start off with that, and I'm, eager to see, like where this, conversation goes, because I know this wasn't going to be, a individual versus a collective, mindset or talk, but yeah, I just wanted to, state that.
Yeah, for sure. We can talk about that. I have that soon. The
Okay.
the just the breakdown. In is a negation, and divide dual.
Yeah.
So the individual is a negation of being divided or dual. So not divided or dual. That's like the etymological root of why that word was created.
Yeah.
And yeah, so you're. Anyways, we can get to there afterwards. If you
Yeah.
wanted to say more
Yeah.
on it, go right ahead.
No, hey, you can go ahead and go, because I'm kind of eager to see, where this conversation is going to go, because I think this is one of my favorite conversations to talk about, because I mean, we all know what's going on, and the individual gets put down in society and all this stuff, and yeah, group think. Oh God, like I can just, yeah. I'll let you take over, because I don't want to go on a rant just yet, but yeah.
Well, if you want to rant, go ahead, and I'll just keep going in my thing. Go for it.
Well, you know, as many people know, I've talked about it many times. I umpire, and I see, like, I'm around kids a lot, and the collectivism, the group think, mindset is so conditioned within them. And yeah, I know there's a good argument, that there's more survival within the group, but when we look at society and how it's based, a lot of people actually think that the group, the collective, is an actual functioning, being. And it's not. It's this concept that just exists in our mind, because a group is not capable of thought. It's not capable of feeling. It's not capable of free will, or intelligence. So it's just a it's just individuals who have come together, and we are putting the cart before the horse, because we put way more emphasis on the group, on the whole, on the collective, when there's so much information and so much knowledge on why that is dangerous. And that's the thing, like, we've seen these big gatherings, we've seen how people, how people's mindset changes once you get into this group dynamic. And even if you are high conscious, when you're involved in any group, you always have to be alert, because, it's easy to be susceptible for the mind control, for the conditioning. And, it was a lot of people who even still fall into, certain forms of group thinks, doing certain, pandemics, or, false pandemics. And we really need to be aware when we are in any group, even if it's, a group on freedom, a group on natural law, or whatever is. Any group who's not putting the individual first is always going to be a problem. At the end of the day, it's always going to be a problem. I don't care what their group claims. The principle of the individual should always come first, because the individual is the one who can use discernment, who can decide, who has free will. The individual is the one who can feel. The individual is the one who is alive. The individual is the one who is a human being. And I remember, I think it was the great G. Edward Griffin, who's put out a lot of great works, like on this topic. He was talking about, we hear this concept of a forest, but you can't touch a forest, but the forest is made up of trees, but you can touch the individual tree. And that same concept applies to the individual is, we put so much like we put so much emphasis on, the group. We hear things like, oh, Russia or, Iran. What is that? That's just a place, but that doesn't say anything about the individuals there. And we really have to be conscious of all the mind control, putting people into groups. At the end of the day, it's just individuals. And that's where the focus lies. And that's where we have to focus our change on, is to influence, inspire the individual, because it is the individual that has the greatest potential in any given society, that has the greatest gifts.
Yeah, well said. I could add on to that, but I'm going to keep it into the flow, because like one thing leads to another that
Yeah.
opens it up for the other one. So we'll come back to that. Thanks for the input. Before, where am I? Yeah. So before proceeding with like the main notes, I wanted to read, probably take a minute. I have like 6 or 7 little paragraphs from something that probably influenced us all, especially coming from Mark Passio's work, The End of All Evil. The beginning of the book, and at several other points, it references the value of the individual. That's a central component of The End of All Evil, is the value of the individual. And in fact, I think it's the first paragraph starts with that. So the first paragraph is talking about freedom, and it says, the definition of freedom, the definition of freedom is the infinite value of the human being. The definition of evil is the destruction of freedom. Everything that is evil teaches people that they have limited value. So that's important to note, because that's indeed what happens. Is, the opening was like, how valuable are you? How valuable are others? So, Brandon started talking about the individual, and it's all about the individual rights. It all starts from there. The collective doesn't have rights. So, evil. So we're talking about evil. The opposite of evil would be freedom. So freedom, the opposite of evil. In The End of All Evil, that's how they frame it. But when we look at the law of freedom, we have freedom and slavery is evil. So they're somewhat synonymous. And when you define freedom as the infinite value of the human being, I'll read some more paragraphs so people who aren't familiar with this, you'll get more of an understanding. Because I tried to find paragraphs that, like, throughout the book, that eventually gave more of a picture of what he means by the infinite value of the human being, and why the author equates that with freedom as the infinite value of the human being, and why evil is the destruction of freedom. And that tracks with the law of freedom, because when you introduce immorality, it increases the amount of enslavement, because you're stealing from others that immorality, and you're going to be introducing the component of enslavement, whether it's temporary or persisted, and that thereby decreases the state of freedom in that area. So that's why evil is the destruction of freedom, because that's what it does. And I think the paragraphs I picked out, it's like a few sentences, and it'll give more of an idea of how that relates to the infinite value of the human being. Or at least I tried to pick out. There's not many, but I'll just read them all, and then we can, if you want to jump in at any point, let me know, and you can jump in with whatever you have to say. So the next part is, freedom brings everything good. For as a human being, the degree of freedom that you require is infinite. Freedom is the infinite value of the human being. If evil destroys freedom in any area of your life, it can limit your wisdom, your love, and your joy. So that's somewhat what I was just talking about, right? Freedom brings everything good, because when you do good things, you're not violating others' rights and you're not degrading their freedom, and that's good. And when you do acts of evil, immorality, that is stealing something from them, so that doesn't bring things good. So freedom brings everything good. And as a human being, the degree of freedom that you require is infinite in terms of, the limits of your freedom are where someone else's freedom begins. So the existence of another means you can't encroach on that, but you're free to do other things. So it's not literally infinite. The author might be a bit loose in their specificity of saying things specifically. But so if evil destroys freedom in an area, immorality destroys freedom, because, as I just mentioned, it increases the enslavement. So it degrades your life and your joy. So evil challenges the value of people by denying them the opportunity to make their own choices, by denying them the chance to grow strong in learning and understanding. And that's what we have when there are people who think they have the right to do that, such as government, and everyone believes they have the right. Well, you're restricting people's choices, that you're not allowed to do things that you rightfully can do. And say you can make some mistakes, like wearing a seatbelt or not isn't harming anyone, but that's limiting your choices, and it's denying you the chance to grow strong in learning. So you're not learning why it's optimal. You're just being punished if you don't do it. So that's a basic example, but it applies in other ways where you limit choices and then the person can't grow stronger in learning and understanding. The third one I have here is force and compulsion destroy the value of human beings and dissolve the will of their spirit. Evil steals the sovereignty you have over your own life. Nothing righteous can come from the destruction of freedom. So evil steals the sovereignty. We're talking about related to the law of freedom. When you do immorality, it's a theft of some kind. So it steals your sovereignty, because your sovereignty is you own you. So someone's denying your sovereignty when they engage in an act of immorality, because that theft is a violation of your property rights, which is ultimately a violation of your own self-ownership. And that's what sovereignty is. The truth is that you are free, and there is no authority that has any claim upon you ever. You are, by your nature, already free. That is the value of the human being. So here he's stating what is, I guess, the base inherent value of the human being is that you're already free. You already have sovereignty. And that's what gets violated when evil is the destruction of freedom, and freedom is the infinite value of the human being. This is the value that's being destroyed by evil. It's that by your nature you're already free. You're a sovereign. And that's what's being attacked and destroyed when immorality gets created. All the comforts of modern life were made possible by people with the faith to succeed. Ask yourself what miracles may be accomplished when this small percentage becomes perfect freedom and is achieved for everyone of the billions of people on earth. This is the infinite value of human beings. So you take that one value of a human being, and then to get to the infinite value of human beings, they're saying that look at all the things that we've accomplished as human beings, and we've improved the quality of life. These little miracles, that you could look at them as miracles. And, all these people, that's why he's talking about making choices, the opportunity to make your choices, and denying the opportunity to make choices. Well, all these people had the freedom to experiment and create things, and the government often steps in and says, you can't do this, you can't do that. So that restricts our potential to create things and create better things. So all these people had pushed forward with their imagination and the choice, and they created things that help people. So imagine taking that small percentage and applying that to everyone for billions of people. Imagine what we could do. And that's the infinite value, where our individual value, where we're free and sovereign, and we're applying that, and we're trying, and we're respecting others in that respect, and what we could do, what we could create, the heaven we could create instead of the hell. We could make the world such a better place than what we're choosing right now. And the last one I have is: personal sovereignty is the end of evil, when every person on earth will defend themselves and those they love. When evil cannot gain even a foothold because all people are watching for it and recognize that it seeks to destroy their value. Exactly. And that's what it takes for true freedom that I went into in my presentation on true freedom, that it's true freedom is for all, by all, or at least by the majority. Because if you're not willing to lend a hand, let's say one person or a small group is being violated by a larger group, well, it takes people united. You have to be morally united, or else true freedom doesn't last. People have to be ready to defend others. Otherwise, when you're in peril and you need the help of others, well, if you weren't willing to do it for them, why should they be willing to do it for you? So everyone has to be willing to do it. And right now we're prevented from doing that because of the destroying of our choices, of that choice potential, by the authorities who say we don't have the right to do it. Only they have the right to do it. So you want to add anything on those 7 or 8 quotes from the book?
Sure. You mind if I give a quick shout out real quick?
Sure.
Because, you brought up the end of all evil. And if anyone's not familiar with that book, Kris Nelson is selling it on his website. Selling some found a printer along with someone else, and they're selling copies. So you can check out his website at nevil.life. Yeah, nevil.life. And then hopefully you know how to navigate the website, can find links to the book. I plan on getting it soon. But yeah, I've read that book twice. Such an amazing book. Can possibly be in my top 5 books of all time. And it's a simple, easy book to read, easy to understand. But people don't understand that freedom requires the imagination. I've always said, freedom is infinite possibilities with ultimate responsibilities. And of course, I'm talking about for the individual, because in a free society, there's going to be an infinite means of doing something. There's not going to be a one shoe fits all. But then we also have to understand that the level of responsibility that's going to come along with that the individual has to be willing to maintain and endure. Because without that level of responsibility, then freedom is going to crumble. People are going to put limits on freedom. People are going to put boundaries on freedom. People are going to put limits on the imagination. People are going to put, limits on property, on rights. And the imagination aspect is the part that seems dead in people. And that's why freedom is waning. Freedom is on held a decline. And you also talked about unity. I had watched a good video earlier today that Louis Rothman had put out about the whole internet, about the whole stuff going on with internet censorship. And he was talking about how, of course, the people pushing this, they're all united. And yet the people who is affected by this, they're fighting in the comments, trying to determine if it's left or right. It's like, no, it's not left or right. It's just tyranny. And because we're so disunited, like we're so disunited within ourselves, we can't even see, we can't even imagine anything outside of that health division. And therefore we can never, create different conditions to even change the condition we have now. And that's the problem, is because we're not unified within ourselves. The imagination is dead, that there is no true unity within, and therefore we can't achieve that freedom within ourselves, and therefore we can't manifest our freedom outwardly. And again, if there is no internal unity, there is no individual, because the individual means what? To be not divided, indivisible, not separated, integrated, integrity. So the individual means the same thing as integrity, because integrity means what? It means wholeness. If something's wholeness, it's not divided, it's not separated.
Yeah, I have that lower that related to the individual. Um, and it relates to the whole value thing, tying in. Well, we'll get to that. I don't want to spoil it, but money, one I, the individual is one, so you have to be united. What does that mean? Integrated, coherent, non-contradictory. What does that mean? Well, that's our
Yes.
thoughts, emotions, and actions being united. That's what that means. There was another thing that you said.
Imagination.
Yeah, that's why I brought this up. But then there was something else, and I was gonna talk about it. But anyways, I forgot. It floated out of my mind. So yeah, you mentioned imagination. I just wanted to bring this up. This was from the True Freedom presentation, and I have it over here. Limit or destroy imagination. We're talking about limit or destroying choice and possibility. Limit free will, destroy freedom. That's a large part of what the end of all evil is talking about.
Yeah. That
Because true
second one
free.
is another big one.
What?
That destroy possibility, a limit what's possible. That's
Yeah.
another big one that people fall into. Yeah.
Well, that's how you get there, because you need imagination to see what's possible, and that's what true
Yeah.
freedom is the infinite possibilities, and that's what people are conditioned or influenced to be afraid of, because this means the possibility of chaos. See, the fear of chaos, because you have fear of possibilities. The unknown, it's dangerous. So it's infinite. So there's some things you can't think of, that you can't envision, that you can't see, that might happen. And because you don't know what they are, well, that's what we talked about, that darkness, that abyss, that void, that when you have a question and you don't have an answer, that creates that. So here you have infinite. Well, that could be anything. Well, that's that unknown, and that's dangerous. So then those fear of possibilities, since true freedom requires infinite possibilities, the possibility of chaos. Those infinite possibilities are the possibility of order and chaos. Well, if you're going to fear those infinite possibilities, then you're essentially fearing freedom, because it's dangerous. And then that's why people have this, probably not conscious, but this unconscious recognition of a fear of freedom, where they don't want to be free.
Yep.
At a subconscious level, because all of this is, like, whether they know it or not, I'm sure in some manner, the intuitive or subconscious processing of information, of that intuitive logic aspect. That's how I view intuition. It's unconscious logic. It's an automatic logic process. It's not your conscious mind connecting the pieces. It's at the subconscious level. So there's at the subconscious level, I think I believe that there's like these implicit connections being made at a logical level of comparison, where they don't want freedom. And whenever you try to talk about removing government, they fear all the things that could happen. And that's exactly this. All these possible things, and the things they won't have because they're not coercing people and stealing their money to pay for the things. They don't want to go the hard route of cooperating and figuring out the way to do it through cooperative means to provide the things that they want, where everyone voluntarily pitches in. So they prefer an immoral world, and they don't want true freedom. They just don't want it at all. It's like, get away from me. I'm not interested. I want my safe slavery. and that's it. And I wanted to bring this one up, related, since we're talking about unity and integrity. Well, this is what we're talking about here: unity consciousness, the true I individual. When you're not in disunity consciousness, you're in unity consciousness, because as you think, so you feel, and so you do, and it's all in harmony. And right now, um, even us, we can think and feel to be right, but our actions, we are being limited by government, so we can't do everything. We're being restricted in our potential because we don't have the strength of numbers, the principle of quantity, as I refer to it, to support each other in moral unison and be able to engage in that process where we can be fully, completely united in our actions without, having our life extinguished because we live in moral unity. So we need the numbers, and that requires first the mindset of people to change so that we can then act differently in the world and actually change things.
Another thing with freedom, a lot of people think freedom is going to come in some afterlife, some religious dogmatic bullshit. Um, I've actually had someone tell me, oh man, like it's just so sad that, like there's no need for them to, like get involved because, you know, they're
God's got
saved by
this.
Jesus.
Jesus got
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
Yeah, Jesus got this. And I'm like, wow, that's so evil. What a cowardly thing to say. Like, when someone says something like that, it just takes like all the energy like out of me, and I just want to get away like from that person. But yeah,
Yeah,
like
they're in hopelessness, basically.
yeah, like it's just it's such a soul draining state to be in that like somebody is literally that spiritless and soulless that what they just said like just sucks the energy out of me because it's like you're I mean technically you're dead, you know. And I hate to use that word, but like it's the truth. Like someone like that just has to suffer more because I'm sure if it was their child, who was being, raped or sacrificed, because Jesus ain't gonna save your child, then things would, how things would change. But hey, who knows? Or maybe not. Some people just stuck in their dogmatic religious ways.
Well, that's what it is with vaccines. Um, People just deny things. That was my quote in high school. No, however ignorant we were. I like the movie American Beauty, and there was a quote. Ricky Fitz, the character in there, he says, "Never underestimate the power of denial," and that was my quote in my yearbook,
Mm,
graduation yearbook, that I
yeah.
put. Never underestimate the power of denial, and it's always, it's so true in so many aspects of life. But as I was referring to the vaccines in general, is that people are in such denial, they're in such belief in the expertise and authority that there has to be no problems with it. It's completely safe and effective. That, as you were referring to, that even if it would happen to their own child, they would still continue to believe. They would be like, no, it's something else because this is safe and effective. It's impossible that it could cause any problems whatsoever.
Yeah.
Impossible. So it has to be something else.
I
Denial.
just read. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was just saying denial. That's what it is.
It's funny you brought that up because I like about 2 minutes before you started this, I read a post on some YouTube. He had like 2 million views, and like his channel just popped up, and I just clicked on this post because it had mRNA, vaccines, and I wanted to like just to see like what he was going to say, and he was just dick riding them, like just so ecstatic. You're like, yeah, they're, using them to do research on like cancer and all these
I had
treatments.
plug
And
and
I'm
play,
just like,
man. That was the dream of it.
yeah. I'm like, wow, man. And then like people in the comments are trying to make it like, like this political issue, which is not. It just shows like the division. Everyone trying to make stuff so, politicized. It's like
Mm-hmm.
this has nothing to do with politics. This has to do with right and wrong, and sovereignty, and oh man, it was just such a sad state, a disgusting state, because the comments were like kind of hyping this, like hyping the crap up too, and just making it like political, and it was just nonsense.
Yeah.
And someone like this who has 2 million subscribers can do a lot of damage. You know, can do a lot of freaking damage. Can do a lot of you know mental harm to people, spreading incorrect crap like that, because a lot of people are going to buy it and then just believe it.
Yeah. That's the whole point of the last few episodes, was on learning how to think, because
Yeah.
someone can shoot bullshit at you, but, well, don't you know how to think? Don't you know how to verify? Well, if you can't verify it, then you're just believing in it. And that's one thing I wanted to mention. Like, so it's like all, yeah, science, yeah, technology, oh, it's gonna save us, woohoo. That's what people are like. It's on this, like, I guess, hopium train about it all. And when the mRNA injections were being developed, there were people doing research. And you can go back to Moderna. Moderna was a failing company. They had their, like, all their investment money, that things were going nowhere. It was all failing. And this was like, for them anyways, Pfizer has been doing good, but for Moderna, they had tried mRNA technology, and it's in their documents and everything, so you can go look from their own mouth.
Yep.
So you can say, well, maybe they were lying about themselves, but most likely they were being honest, because they had to be. And they were talking about how mRNA wasn't working. The lipid nanoparticle, NNP, when they used this methodology, this technology, to try to bypass, I forget the whole jargon, because this was like 4 or 5 years ago, so I'm very
Yeah.
loose on all of it, but that was how to get the mRNA to get your body to replicate the spike proteins, which is insane in itself, since the spike protein was the thing that's dangerous. But let's just make more of it, and that's going to be better. Obviously, it isn't, as we know. So people were
Yeah.
warning about the dangers, but in the original research that they were doing, the LNP was dangerous in itself. This was before the spike protein. This was just with the mRNA technology. And it created so many issues that it was a failure.
Yep.
And then 3 years later, nothing changed. But all of a sudden, hey, who cares about the failure? Let's just go forward with it, because the government wants it and they're paying and they're going to give us immunity. But the failure was still there. They didn't solve it. So, all this was just ignored, and it's all about making money. It's not about helping people. They knew about the problem, the dangers of the lipid nanoparticle methodology, and so yeah, I just wanted to mention that
Because that's what people value. People value money
yeah,
over truth, over morality, over doing the right thing. People value money
exactly.
over freedom.
That's
Yeah,
part of
and
this
that's the
talk.
problem. Yeah.
Yeah, when they came up with the first few companies, there was Pfizer and Moderna. Boy, their stocks went. People were like, "Oh, they got a
Yeah,
contract
for
from the
real.
government. Let's buy the stock because they're gonna make a lot of money." So there you go. People just don't give a shit. All they want to do is
Yeah.
make money. And yeah, so this is a good conversation. I'm glad we'll be able to continue next week. We'll continue a bit more here. So we mentioned money. We'll get into money later on. I have it later in my list. So after reading the End of All Evil here, I was getting into, we're talking about money. We mentioned, so we're talking about value. We mentioned money and how people value themselves. Well, this is based on how people see things. It's based on their perception, and that forms beliefs, and they have information coming into them. Like you were mentioning that video, it's going to influence a lot of people because they don't know how to think, and they're just going to gobble it up and be like, yeah, I'm going to champion this. This is going to be great. Because they're ignoring what happened in the past 4 years with this flawed technology, and the problems haven't been fixed, but let's just keep going and make more money and harm more people because that doesn't matter. Just deny, deny, deny. Um, and that's, I just want to mention this, in courts, that's all you have to do. If you're guilty, just deny. Just deny, deny, deny.
Yeah.
And you'll probably get away with it because someone else has to prove that you're guilty.
Right.
So
Yep.
even if you know you're guilty, well, the smart move to do is just like, no, I'm not guilty. Deny. Go ahead and prove me guilty. And you'll probably get
I
away with
know
it.
you see all, like it's like when someone gets called in to testify, like the Senate, then they just like, I don't remember, no, and they just deny, yeah, because they know how the shit works.
Yeah, well, that's not even a courtroom. Yeah, those Senate
Yeah,
hearings. It's like,
yeah, I know.
you must testify, okay, but like no matter what is said, it's like they can just lie anyways. Like the Fauci ones
Right,
were
yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah,
There is no gain of function, and then they changed the website to change the like gain of function. No, it's not gain of function anymore. They're like memory hold Orwellian 1984, just like
right.
change definitions. No, it's not gain of function. What are you talking about? We don't talk about gain. Fauci was just ridiculous. I am the science. When you're attacking me, you're attacking science. Because I
Yeah,
am the
like that.
science.
Wow, such a like man,
So
that's a bold
arrogant.
move, Cotton. Like that's a bold thing to say, Cotton.
So all these influences forming our perceptions from birth to now, that's what shapes us. So we see the world. This brings back to what you were talking about, that person who was like, God has it, Jesus has it, this learned helplessness and hopeless, that they don't have to do anything. They've learned to be helpless. That they're seeing, there's people who can see the world as the world is only being possible the way it is, and it can't change. So they're living in like a static way that it is, and that's like a hell. There's no possibility for change. Nothing can be improved. Or there's people who can view it as the world needs to have a large amount of suffering. Doing your part to end suffering, to do no harm. That aspect, do the least harm you can, at least. And like, oh, well, it's pointless because you can't do no harm, so why bother trying? You can't end all suffering, so why bother ending any amount of suffering? And or that there needs to be suffering. There needs to be a large amount of suffering. There's always going to be small amounts of suffering. The struggle of life is suffering, but
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be immoral. And then there's people who see that in their perception, the way they think about things, the worldview, the poison worldview, and the value they have of other individuals is that humans are inherently evil. And that, humans are not worth anything. They could have self-hatred and self-loathing, or they could have hate of others as misanthropy. So they can just like hate people in general, hate humanity, and like want a virus to come and wipe everyone out, or stop having kids, and just like all these green movement, Club of Rome, new mind control nonsense that's going on in the past like 10, 20 years there. A lot of people think that way. And you could also have the positive side that's poisoned because it's not realistic, where, like, oh, we live in a great rosy colored glasses. It's already a great world. There's no wrong. Everything's good. That human beings are inherently good by default, and most people are good, and there's only a few bad apples, and there's no suffering going on. Things like that. So it applies both ways, where you could have a poisoned worldview of viewing things only in the negative, or poisoned worldview of pretty much just looking at things only in the positive, rosy-colored glasses type thing. You want to add anything on that?
like man, the latter. I don't. Man, if there's anyone who's like the latter, I found that to be even worse than the first one because I want to say like, man, what reality hell do you live in? I mean, like they're both, of course, are incorrect, but like the rosy colored glasses. My gosh, man, you need to hell freaking have those glasses smashed. But yeah, you know, these are still two incorrect mindsets. You know, still two incorrect false axioms that create dangerous worldviews. And that's the thing is a lot of the stuff is implanted and conditioned to us in such a young age, and a lot of us never really grow out of it because a lot of us don't want to. And that's the thing is, gosh, world colored glasses. And then the whole everybody, we're born evil. Man is evil. Well, if that's the case, then every single one of us will be out eating each other. You know, like we would be fighting with our neighbors, like if that was the case. And it really does show that when you limit the information that an individual gets on how that is detrimental to the development of their consciousness. And again, I'm going to repeat that. When you limit the information that one can take in and how that can make or break the development of their consciousness, that right there is mind control. Because what you are doing is you are limiting what's possible, you're limiting the thoughts, you're limiting how they feel, you're going to limit how they behave, and you're also going to control it. And that's why people buy into these negative worldviews, because they were giving limited, incorrect information, data. They was giving limited, incorrect code. And when it came to processing, it was flawed. It was incorrect. And therefore, the data, the information that's being spat out in the form of output is also incorrect. Because again, like Chris has talked about, I've talked about, you poison the information stream that we take in, and you limit that data, and that is what stunts people's imagination. Alchemical divorce. Yeah.
See, I had the voice before when I went to the image, and now I came back, and now I have no audio again. Jesus, OBS shit is annoying. I don't know why it does that, but
Oh, hopefully it wasn't held that long.
yeah. Well, it's just when I switched over, so the past
Yeah.
few minutes. But as I was saying, Brendan was going more on the rosy colored glasses, and that's why I was bringing up this infographic of the rosy colored glasses is seeing things in an angelic light, where the tree's healthy, the grass is green, everything's good. But that's not the way reality is. And when you actually poke through that false perception and you take a look at what's behind that rosy colored false perception of reality, then you're going to see the darkness and the decay. And the work is to remove that from reality in order to create reality as it actually should be, rather than perceiving it the way you want it to be, the way it should be. You're perceiving that way it should be is actually how it is right now, but it's not actually like that right now. So there's work to do, and you have to see things as they are, not as you want them to be originally. That's part of the acceptance. Accept and not reject the way things currently are. You don't have to accept that they need to stay that way, but you have to accept that and see the darkness, the evil, and the demons and the monsters and the shadow within us and outside of us in the world for how it actually is. Then you can work on doing the work to remove that and create the world as it should be, not falsely seeing that it already is that way. So that's what I was saying when I was muted. All right, thanks chat, because I gotta remember. Last time I was like, I gotta check every time I switch scenes. I gotta check my mic to make sure it didn't get auto muted, and forgot this time. So yeah, I guess I don't know. I guess we could end it there and do a little wrap up. So we'll continue with we're talking about this false way of seeing things and how we are conditioned. Brandon mentioned that we're conditioned, and so how does this conditioning work? We're talking about how human nature isn't good and isn't evil. So we'll get into how we're programmed and how we become more or less good or evil. And so we have these dual aspects. We're walking on the checkerboard floor. That's how most of us are in this world, because we're conditioned in the ignorance of what is morally true, the objective morality. And so we're on that checkerboard floor of when we're walking through the game of life, we are stepping on squares that are light, so we do things that are light, representing good, and we step on the dark squares representing things that are wrong, evil. So we're walking on both squares because we don't know the difference between the two. So we're living on the checkerboard floor, and that goes with the first degree tracing board and Freemasonry, things like that. So that would be interesting to pick up from there and keep going with this aspect of the value of the individual and the degradation of that and the poisoned worldview. So tune in next time. Same bat time, same bat channel. Did you want to say anything in closing?
I went back and rewatched The Matrix 2, Kel again, just because, you and I had did that episode a couple of weeks back and, done so many episodes, and it always comes up. But, the part when the Oracle's talking about, there's a program for this, or, pretty much telling Neo there's programs for everything. And then she even talked about, how there's programs that are, pretty much doing what they're not supposed to do. And that's what people need to understand is there are programs everywhere. We take in programs all the time. There are good programs and then there are negative programs. And it's up to us to choose which programs we take in. Because those programs have effects, And just like, you saw in the movie, you know what happened when a program went rogue and started to take over. It was like a cancer. And that's what's happening, to hell to us. Is we've taken in so many negative programs that it's having a decay-like effect in our consciousness, and we are pushing that decay out to where it's destruction and chaos. toward all life forms, toward nature. So humanity is turned into Agent Smith, unfortunately, because we're just running negative programs. But there's still a way out. So I'll close it on that.
That's a good analogy, metaphor. Yeah. Because the Matrix, so these programs are in the Matrix, and Matrix is a prison for your mind. It's enslaving the mind to keep the body enslaved in that allegory to harness our energy. And that's also what we have in our world, is that we're all sent through schooling to become universal constructors as cogs to replace in the machine of society, to keep things going, keep the illusion going, keep the flow, the currency of money and goods and services, so that the parasites can keep their sustenance and not do any work, because the work that they do isn't equated to the work of actual people creating all these things. They're more parasitical, especially those related to the deception of money. So these programs are within that context of the Matrix is enslaving, is a prison on your mind, because it's enslaving your mind to keep you trapped in a false reality. Well, that's what those programs do. And that's these poisoned worldviews that keep you trapped in a false perception of reality. And that's the alchemical divorce infographic is a good segue to that. Thanks for bringing that up. That was a good point to end it on. So, next week I'm starting my job on Monday. I got a new job, and
congratulations, man.
Thanks. Things should be okay. I don't think it'll be too hectic there. So show should still be on, and we'll continue with the value of the individual and the worldview poisoning, and talk more about it. And maybe we can think of more Matrix references, since that's the greatest movie ever made, in my opinion, anyways. And that'd be cool to talk about. So have a good night, everyone. Take care.